Hey everyone, Ken Heisel here. Just putting out just a quick video here today. Just something I was thinking about yesterday as I was out walking. I'm trying to get prepared for London, and usually, I'll start a few weeks before I go. It's kind of like I kind of think about it the older I get. It's more like the Rocky thing. I'm getting ready. Okay, I'm getting ready for this, and not just spiritually and mentally, but also physically. And so I was out walking yesterday, and I was listening to some different podcasts, and I came across this podcast that was talking about, it was a Christian podcast, and it was talking about a Christian author. I think maybe he had been a pastor. I'm not really sure, but I know that he had written a lot of books. I think it was Philip Yancey is what they said his name was. I've heard of him before. I've never read any of his books, but I had heard about, he was sharing about this man being in ministry for, gosh, I don't know if it was like 50 years or what. He was in his 70s, been married for many years, and it just came out that he was having an affair for like 8 years. And it made me think of a couple of years ago when I had gone to a conference in Kansas City, and the speaker there was Stephen Lawson. Stephen Lawson, I respect Stephen Lawson, and it just blew me away. A couple of days after I got back from the conference in Kansas City, it came out that Stephen Lawson had admitted to having an inappropriate relationship for like 5 years. And so his ministry pretty much deflated. And I think I listened to every sermon that Stephen Lawson had on Sermon Audio. Once I started listening to him, I think it was through something I'd listened to with John MacArthur. I started listening to Stephen Lawson, and I just loved listening to him. I could just receive from him really well, and so I listened to almost every sermon, I think, on Sermon Audio of his, and so it was really blew me away. So I got to thinking about how sad that is. When a minister that's been in ministry for so long has, been in like a hidden relationship, and how hard that must be on his family and on their wives. And when I got back from the one in Kansas City and I found out about Stephen Lawson, it really shook me, because I was like, Dee and I, we've been married, I think it was 33 years at the time. And I was thinking to myself, man, if these men could fall, that's scary. I mean, if they could fall, it's possible that I could as well. Not like I was under any delusions that I thought that I was like the world's best husband or anything, but I was like, man, I mean, it really scared me. And so I got on, the internet and found a marriage conference. And it was a 3-day marriage conference in Indianapolis, Indiana. And so I went ahead and I registered Dee and I to go to it. And so we went to it. And I don't know how much I really learned at it. But Dee and I was able to spend 3 days together and just be able to listen to some of the talks that they had and all. It's just kind of a fine tuning, for our marriage. And, I love my wife, and I would never want to be without her. I really wouldn't. I don't know how, these spouses, other than God giving them, the strength to be able to do it, that are married for 50 and 60 years and then their spouse dies. And I don't know. I mean, that's just, to me, would be like one of the most devastating things that could happen, in my life, is not to have my wife. And so I was like, let's go to this Bible conference, just if nothing else, just kind of do a tune-up, on our marriage. And I think that sometimes we can just grow apart. And I think that that's some of what causes relationships to do that. I think they said with Stephen Lawson, it was probably because he was on the road like 300 days a year or some kind of thing. He was just gone all the time. There's been times where you hear about, there was I think it was a preacher of Bourbon Street or something. I remember the story. I just can't think of all of it right now. But he was a preacher in the French Quarter for many years, and he ended up getting famous, and he starts traveling around and getting invited to go on to shows and speak on different talk shows and everything. And he ended up leaving his wife and his family. The only time that his kids would be able to see him if they went and visited him in a strip club. I mean, he just flatlined. And there was a counselor sharing this at one of the talks that we had, during our New Orleans outreach, and he was talking about this. He was saying that the counselor said that what happens with these men is as they get so busy that they stop spending time with God and they stop praying, and they get themselves into situations. It's kind of like the tire doesn't blow out, like just a blowout. It starts losing air, and then eventually the tire ends up coming off the wheel. And when you think about this stuff, it's really scary. It's like, man, Lord, what can I do? What do I need to do to be able to work on my marriage, to be able to safeguard it? Because it could happen to any of us. If I remember a guy that I think he worked for me, and we was at a restaurant, and this had been many years ago now, and he said, Ken, he said women are attracted not so much by the physical, he said, as they are about someone listening to them and complimenting them. And he said, watch this, whether this was right or not, this is what he does. He says, watch this. So the waitress, he starts complimenting her. He's not flirting with her or anything. He's just complimenting her. You look nice, and then he would ask, how's your day going, and different things like that. And by the time we had left that restaurant, she was actually sitting in the chair at our table talking with this guy. And he said, this is the thing, is he said, if we're not paying attention to our wives, someone else will. And so while men, they're in a lot of ways more physical, women are conversational. And I'm not saying that that I know this for sure, but there is some evidence of that. The women are more conversational. And so if we deprive our spouses, whether it's the wife depriving her husband of intimacy, physical intimacy, or the husband, neglecting his wife and spending time with her, the Apostle Paul, warns us about this. Well, in fact, he tells us the principles of married life. In 1 Corinthians chapter 7, starting in verse 3, he says, this is what the Apostle Paul is writing to the Corinthians. He says, let the husband render to his wife the affection due to her, and likewise also the wife to her husband. The wife does not have authority over her own body, but the husband does. And likewise the husband does not have authority over his own body, but the wife does. Do not deprive one another except for consent for a time, that you may give yourselves to fasting and prayer, to come together again, so that Satan does not tempt you because of your lack of self-control. And, Satan knows what it is that attracts us. He knows what it is that attracts us. See, he doesn't come to us and I've heard it put this way, he doesn't come to us in a red suit, with horns and a tail and a pitchfork. He comes to us with those things that he knows that we desire. he tempts us with those things that we desire. So you can't be tempted with something that wouldn't be desirable to you. And we as human beings, as husbands and wives, you know, we want that relationship with our spouse. And if that goes on for, you know, an extended amount of time and it's not there, what ends up happening is the devil comes in. That this innocent relationship over here at work, or this innocent relationship with this person, this friend or neighbor or whatever it might be, and next thing you know, it's you know, it's gone to a point to where it's hard to recover from. And so whatever it might be, and I'm not saying that if you're going through something like that this is the reason, but it is something that we should think about, is to say, you know, Lord, you know, help me to be able to see the areas that I lack in as a husband or a wife. Because things may not be as important to you. Say it might not be as important to you or to me to sit and talk with my spouse, which I'm getting better with that. I want Dee to be able to talk to me. I want her to be able to come to me and not just have to go to friends or find somebody else to talk to. In fact, I would find that hurtful if, you know, that's what she felt like she had to do, is to go to someone other than me. It doesn't mean that she shouldn't talk with her friends and things like that, but what I'm saying is that I should be the person that she should be able to come to. And I shouldn't have to go to some other woman to feel like I'm attractive to them. And Satan will use this stuff. It's subtle, but eventually what ends up happening is you end up growing apart, and then, you know, you end up, you know, your marriage ends up just like a sinking ship, and there's no recovering it. So anyway, that's what I was thinking of this weekend when I was out walking and I heard that podcast, and I was like, Lord, help me to do whatever it is, whatever my wife needs to be able to be a blessing to her. And she is a blessing to me. She is a Proverbs 31 wife. And I'll tell you, I could not ask for a better wife than what I have in Dee. And sometimes I'm like, Lord, I don't even know how you ever thought to bless me as much as you have with, first and foremost, salvation, and opening up my eyes in the spiritual sense as to who he is. And he's not just a big guy upstairs, but he's God. And he's a God that loves us. See, Jesus didn't come to condemn us. I put out a post yesterday. Jesus didn't come to condemn us, but rather to save us. Because, friends, for one thing, the truth of the matter is we're condemned already. We're condemned already. Jesus came to save the condemned. And so he opened up my eyes to salvation, into who he is. And he blessed my life with a helpmate that, honestly, if the Lord took Dee before me, the likelihood of me ever having, I mean, not like I would even have a desire for it, but I could never ask for a better wife than Dee. And so I'm thankful. And I just want to be, I want to be wise in the way that I can, go about our relationship. And I just think that that's something that really needs attention in a lot of Christian marriages today, is to actually put our spouses first, only after God, only after him. And so praise God. Thanks for watching, and I'll get a post out there again probably later this week. God bless.